Hi, this is Tim Ashton, and we're in the Soulton Long Barrow here, which is a site that has been built over the last couple of years on a farm near Wem, north of Shrewsbury, at Soulton. And because of what's been happening, we would normally be having open days around about now. We'd probably had, well, we would have had 3, but unfortunately they've had to be postponed or rescheduled. So a view developed that we needed to do a bit of a virtual open day. And that's what I'm doing now. Hopefully some people will join at some point, but you can watch back later, I gather. So I wanted to just cover 4 things, if I could, whilst we were doing this, hopefully. The first is to explain what a long barrow is and what the inspiration of this structure is. Then to explain what we've done here in the 21st century, because the original inspirations come back from the late Stone Age, like 5,500 years ago. Then to have a bit of a look at some of the details in the structure that is here and some discussion about how people are using the monument, and then if people have joined sufficiently to have any questions and I can actually read them off that screen, I will try and cover those. So the first thing I was going to talk about is what a long barrow is and the times that they come from. So they are a late Stone Age monument. They were built about 5,500 years ago. Then they translated through the Bronze Age and into the Saxon period with different styles. But the monument that we built here is inspired by the guys of the late Stone Age. So that's the dawn of agriculture and the dawn of architecture. The new monument that we built here is obviously honouring and paying tribute to what the guys in those days were doing, but it is it's got some differences in style. The masons that have built it here are from Riverdale stone, working for sacred stones, and the stone that is used is limestone. The purpose of this monument, much like the original monuments, is to allow a special place for us to remember loved ones and also to celebrate life. I can see that some folks have joined. I haven't seen any comments yet, but I can maybe read those if they come in. Yes, going back to the purpose of the barrow, it's designed to provide a special place for people to store cremation ashes. And this part of the monument has been built now for nearly 2 years, and there is a construction phase happening behind me over there, which will provide another chamber significantly bigger than the one that we're in here. So the capacity will be for about 300 families, and at the moment there's about 60 niches in here, of which I think of the standard sizes all but 10 or 11 have been reserved. So I thought there are a few beautiful things that people have done in here that I will sort of sensitively show in a second, but I also wanted to just see very carefully whether I can manage to show you what the structure is like without terrible camera work. So one detail I did want to show you is the gate, which is on the front. It's going to get a bit shaky for a second, but this gate is the work of, the design is by Giles Smith, who won the Turner Prize in 2015 as part of the Assemble Collective. So the design in this gate is looking at the bush barrow lozenges, which are found in the Wiltshire area, and then the chevrons, which are an important design element in a lot of Neolithic ceramics. So we were looking at those. Whilst I'm out here, I might as well show you, if this is working, the outside of the monument, which is this beautiful stonework, and there's these amazing megaliths at the top here, and you can see through a little slither of light at the top. That's going to lead through to the next chamber, which says construction, but it's a little bit paused at the moment because of what's been happening. But there's some beautiful work there. The landscape around here is a very sort of flat area of the farm that we've got. Hopefully you're seeing an oak tree, and then you're coming around to a new crop of spring beans and a hedge beyond it showing some wheats. That's Hawkston Hill, if you can make that out on the screen. Coming back round to the southern part of the farm, Soulton Wood beyond there, and then an area with ponds and some materials. So coming back into the barrow, Hopefully the screen's adjusting. I can't see what you can see for the time being. I will hopefully be able, if I come out of the light, to show you the corbelled roof of this monument, which there's 32 tons of stone in there, and you might be able to make out some darker bits of stonework at the top there. Those are on the compass points because the masons, Joby, thought that would be an interesting detail to add into the monument. On the floor, this is going to work. It won't if I do that. Maybe it is now. On the floor there is a stone here. Well, let's hope this isn't. Let's come further back. There, which was laid when we started the monument. It's been called the principal stone by some involved, and it has the design of the monument, but I'm not really sure the camera work's going to be adequate to pull that out for you. Maybe it is. Yes, 32 tons of stone in this corbelled roof, and as you see below, these rather lovely columns with niches, and then a set of seats. And as you might be able to make out, some of these niches have already been reserved, and they've got really beautiful bits of personalised work that people have done. So looking here, we've got a bit of carved oak with a tree of life. Then we've got some stained glass. We've got bits of stained glass and stone carving, and really beautiful things that people have been doing, and lots of lovely different artists involved. So I'm just going to move a few lights, and we will light up just one particular bit of work here, which is a very, very beautiful ceramic urn made from clay from the barrow itself. The potter who made this is a guy called Graham Taylor, who is at Potted History on Twitter, if you're trying to find him. And as I say, he made this beautiful thing out of the clay of the barrow, finding it from the puddles of the early phases of the construction. The techniques he used to make this are all original techniques from the Neolithic, and the patterns on here, I believe Graham would be able to tell you more about this than me, but these chevron patterns are again copied from a Irish, I think possibly early Bronze Age or late Neolithic urn, but again you see these details which were in the gate that Charles Smith did for us. That might flare a bit if you're looking at there, but this is the view out of the barrow, and that is looking east and a bit north, which is taking you to the rising sun on Midsummer's Day. So 21st of June, some of us will be up here to watch the sunrise, and that's an important element of the design of this barrow. When it's completed, there will be another chamber behind us here. At the moment the passage is blocked off just because of construction phase, but that will line up with the setting sun on Midsummer's Day, and I think I can say there's a bit of beautiful stained glass been commissioned at the moment to take care of that. So a bit more to show you when that construction phase has happened, but obviously not possible right now. So I've got some notes over here about what I wanted to cover, which was taking me to what we had to do next, which is, I say, this construction phase. But there is another thing that we announced just before what started to happen, began happening, which is, I think you'll be able to make out if I stand a bit further back. There's quite a serious amount of soil involved in the construction of this monument, and we are not yet complete around the back. So we probably need another 400 tons of soil. And if I walk round this way, looking at some emerging spring beans and some late drilled linseed work first time for me, unfortunately, you'll see that we have an area here which the monument will end up going over. And we need another 400 tons of soil to do that. So challenge that that gives us as a construction task gives us also an opportunity to landscape a little bit south of the barrow. Just coming back into the barrow, so here is another view of the front of the monument and this area to the front. I'm going to put the camera down in a second because I think it's probably better if we have some stable camera work for a bit. I'll just leave it looking at a bit of the barrow here for you. I've got a message saying hi, so hi to those who have joined, and if you've got questions, do put them in the bottom because I will try and read them, and hi Annette, I will try and answer them. Yes, so I was saying that we have a bit of a challenge getting another 400 tonnes of soil to complete this monument, and hi Suzanne. Yes, I'm sorry we missed the sun. I was trying to do this earlier, but the weather was against me and I had some tasks to do on the farm. Yes, so to cover what I was saying before, we need to bring this extra soil on, hopefully at the end of the year, to complete the monument. And if you look at the records from the Neolithic, when people were building the original barrows, they often started to build like stone circles and henge monuments, and that's what we are planning on doing to the south. So that's a conversation that's been going on for probably about 2.5 to 3 years now with a guy called Todd Hoffman, who's a professor of particle physics at Oxford, but he has an interest in sorry, I can see a question. Let me just... How much rain have we had today? We had 15 millimeters of rain yesterday and none today, so hi. Yes, so to cover the henge monument tasks there, we obviously have to move 400 tonnes of soil anyway, and we would like to create a lasting and thoughtful space where people can be outside as well as coming inside the monument here, and invite them to have some thoughts. So it will relate to bits of astrophysics and to bits of really small particle physics, but it's about removing sort of arbitrary putting of rocks in the landscape and trying to do something thoughtful. I would have a bit more to show you slightly later on in the construction. I'm just looking if there are any questions that I can deal with for anybody, and not really any of these. Hello to the Isle of Man there. Yes, so The one note that I have got up here about is about how people are using it, and I thought I should cover that a little bit. Obviously, the monument faces into challenging things that we have to face now and again. It's a place which is quiet, and what can you hear once inside? I'm not sure I understand that question. When people are using this monument, they are, as I say, facing into the challenges that we all have to face now and again. And with what's been going on at the moment, we found it a very nurturing space for just creating a bit of peace. So this week just gone, on Monday at 8 o'clock, we lit the barrow up in common with the other modern barrows which have been built, which are in Wiltshire, Warwickshire and Cambridgeshire, so Willow Row, All Cannings and the Mid England Barrow. If you are needing to find somewhere in nature that is peaceful for renewal and reflection, that's what this monument is doing. Inside, so outside you can hear kind of bird life. I'm just responding to a question that's coming on the screen there. Outside, it's a bit of a blowy day. There is bird song. Earlier today there would have been a lot more. The way we farm here doesn't involve soil disruption, so there are a lot of birds. But once you come inside, because of the sort of noveliness of the stones, it's quite a quiet aesthetic. It's almost quite a dull sound in here, to respond to the question I've got there. Right, I've got a question about how people can use the barrow after the lockdown, which I should cover, because we did have a conversation as a team before what's been happening started to happen, and we agreed that, or we were very conscious that things were going to be quite disrupted and dislocated from how they've been before, and those families that are particularly affected by a loss from sort of March of this year until things get back to normal are going to be missing a ritual that is very important to them. So I think if you look on the Sacred Stones website, I'm sure someone will put in the comments, or we'll put it as a link afterwards, that exceptionally we decided to allow the barrow to be used for families caught in that period for a ceremony, because they will have missed to do what is important for them. So I'm just reading a comment here about the materials that have been used in the barrow. Thank you, Chris, for that. Yes, there was a lot of consideration of materials. So we have opted for limestone, which you will find in most of the surviving long barrows of the sort of Cotswold 7 series, thinking of Bellas Knapp in particular, and Stony Littleton. If I go back out, or if you scroll back in the video, you'll see the front of here, the images on the Facebook page. Those monuments were using limestone. The specific area of North Shropshire that we're in now is terminal moraine from a glacier. So we've got basically scooped up bits of the Scottish border from 10,000 years ago put on the farm. So our soil types changed a lot. We've got, pointing over that way, it is peat. And then the barrow itself is sitting behind, anyway, on very stiff clay, which is why I had the challenge of standing in linseed and had to re-drill. And then in front of the farm here is quite sandy. In front of the barrow here, sorry, is quite sandy. And then we get to more loamy, traditional arable soils on the south of the farm down by the wood. But there isn't any sort of, it's a long way to bedrock because of what's happened with the geology of this area. So to find rocks is quite a rare thing. So they have to be imported, or the hill I pointed out beyond the barrow, out to the right of the front of this monument, is Triassic sandstone, which is red sandstone, and then because of volcanic activity down at Grinsill, there's some very good white sandstone that the farmhouse here is built out of. Those aren't suitable materials for the type of monument that we're building here, because in the case of the red sandstone, you can cleave it, but it's very crumbly and it won't last. In the case of the white sandstone, it will just end up looking like Lego bricks, and you have to use working it with metal tools. So we would end up with a look in here that was really jarring and wrong. So in general, we've selected this sort of Cotswoldy stone from Churchfield's quarry, which is in Northamptonshire, I think, but somebody will correct me if I'm wrong. Chris, finishing your question off, there are a couple of special rocks in here, which I am going to try and show you. Here we are. Here are some special rocks. This one is a large piece of sarsen stone which came from Tim Dawes' farm at All Cannings in Wiltshire. Next to it, it's just a nice stone that we like the look of. It came from the farm. And here is another stone that came from the farm, but this is also sarsen. And we found it just lying on the farm. And that's quite a strange deposit to be finding up here. And sarsen is actually what Stonehenge itself was built from. So that's special rocks here. There's also a piece of quartz. Let me just see, here we are. It won't look on your screens terribly different to the limestone, but quartz was often found in sort of sacred uses around Anglo-Saxon graves and things, so that was found on the still on the screen there. And then if you look on this side, you might be able to make out this rock here, which is different to the others, and it's got these scars on it. If I go a bit closer, maybe they'll come up for you. That is a piece of, I guess it's sandstone. I haven't really looked, but the scarring on here has come from the plough on the farm over centuries, and it's kind of a nice it's a nice thing to connect the monument to the farm with anyway, but also if you go to some of the ancient barrows in Anglesey, thinking of now I'm going to speak in Welsh and do a bad job of it, so apologies for any Welsh speakers. Blacklody Gowras, which is south of Rossniger on Anglesey, you'll find this sort of amazing carved rocks in that barrow. And it would have been phony if we'd put anything in there like that, sort of uncomfortable about it. But this is, we'd have been uncomfortable doing something fake, but this is honest and it comes from the farm. And there is another example of that here. Where am I? Yes, sorry. And I put that stone in somewhat carefully. There's a bit of the monument I haven't really shown you yet, which is, once you get far enough back here, you will see them. These are slightly smaller niches. A few have been reserved. If I get round to the other side, you can see another bit of personalised detailing that people do. Which is one of the really lovely things about this monument, is how people who are artists are getting commissions to do just these very, very beautiful things. Now, an example of that would be, I have to be a bit careful showing people's niche covers without permission. I think it's just a piece of sensitivity, but this is a sample panel, so I'm okay to show you that one. And a lot of people will finish these niches with all kinds of beautiful things. Here is another example of some ceramics. Is that coming up? Just don't want to break the sample I just showed you. I think Bev or somebody will be able to give you details of that particular artist, because as things are, I have to be honest with you, I can't remember who built that one. Now this niche cover is, I probably need a bit more lighting here, or near it. I don't want to disturb it because this monument is actually, this part of this monument is actually in use. But that is a panel of stained glass with a badger on it, and that was done by Nettie, who works with families who are using the barrow here, and it was actually originally used on Country File when this monument was on Country File, which was April last year, so just over a year ago. And this chamber was not even a year old when they came. It was Matt Baker and Ellie Harrison. There's another bit of stained glass, because again I'm just trying to be a bit careful about not over sharing things that are a bit personal for people. That is a view out of the front of the monument with the gate, but a bit less flare hopefully, although you've probably got a much better view of the screen than I have. And then I'm going to just see if I can show you the roof, which I can't. This is quite a useful camera, but I can't get the wide angle function in Facebook Live for you, so that is the scale of that. To give you a sense of how big that is, from the floor down there, all the way up to the top, is 6 metres. It's about the height of a sports hall. And then next door, when that's completed, because of what's been going on, we paused, but the work got so far, it is, I think, 8 or 9 metres across, and it will be something like that in height as well. So that's going to be quite a serious monumental space there. You'll be able to have up to 100 people in it. That's one of the things we've been finding with this monument. Originally we thought it was about finding somewhere quite intimate and quiet and special, which it still is, and obviously that's a very important part of it. But when people have been placing urns here, they've been often wanting to have like a placement ceremony, which in Jewish cultures and some other cultures, you know, not the traditional Anglo-Saxon Church of England approach, that placement thing is done some months later. I put a headstone or place the ashes somewhere, and a big fuss is made about it, and it's actually a very beautiful thing that people do there. So I think that is becoming more important, and that's one of the reasons why this other chamber we had on the original design. If I go back to it, and if that, well, it's quite hard to do this. That we were originally going to have 3 little chambers after the one big one, but sorry, I put my teeth in. We redesigned it so that you would be able to get sort of nudging towards or slightly over 100 people down here, if that's what you wanted to do. So that other chamber will have quite a different scale to it. I'm going to come back and read the comments that people have kindly put up. So that audio back. Oh, you lost my audio. I'm very sorry about that. I'm just trying to read what people have said. Oh, hang on. I mentioned this urn before, and I didn't know who the craftsman was. It's Helen Walters. And if you want to be in touch about that, then the team at Sacred Stones will do that in the comments, or if you send them a message. Have I mentioned the orientation? Yes, I have. Claire says the audio is back. So obviously you lost it for a bit, and I apologise for that. A comment here from Kathy, who says that there's a lot of white quartz on the Isle of Man, and it's a powerful stone used by ancient populations of the island. Yes. Oh, lovely comment. Thank you there, Kathy. If people have got more comments, then do please keep adding them. Because I will try and come to them. I'm a bit flaky at doing this because I haven't done it before, and and it's quite hard to read and concentrate. It's a different new skill for me. Well, I say skill. I'm not sure I'm very good at this. I'm just trying to get back to the bottom of your comment. Okay, cool. So this is where I left my notes. So I'm just come back here to read them to check I've covered what I said I was going to do. I can't remember. I meant to set a timer on this for about 15 minutes, but I didn't actually press start. Okay, great, it's working. Please show the Neolithic urn. I think I did already do this, but I'm going to come back and do that again. So this is quite an easy thing to share about, because it is a sample. I don't have to have the same levels of concern about people's privacy. So again, it probably makes slightly more sense to be showing you this now. If I put it in the sunlight, it might be a bit better, but I don't want to damage it. Certainly don't want to damage something whilst it's being recorded, or at all really. But there it is in some sunlight. You can see a bit of bloom of darker colour on there, because this was fired in an open fire, which is an amazing thing. I think Graham does actually have a video on the YouTube channel for Stonehenge where he's making a pot exactly like this. And there's the lid, which again has the same blooming of blue on the top. There is one urn of Graham's in here already, which is, formally being used, and that I don't really feel comfortable showing you, because that's just need to have some boundaries. It's quite important work. I think that's possibly working a bit better for you from what I can see of the back of the gate. Okay, that's nice comments about me being more competent than I feel I'm being, so that's nice. Now, I don't really know what else to show you, to be honest. I'll come back and just say again that this barrow, because of something that happened to someone I'm close to in the last 2 weeks, I lit this monument up spontaneously just as a bit of a tribute, because we're all going through a difficult and an unusual time. So I did that for his family in Italy. And then I think it was probably in train anyway, but the other barrows have been joining in with doing that, and that's happening at 8 p.m. on Monday. So we just light a candle in here to sort of be present for people who are not getting quite the ritual that they had maybe a right normally to expect, and to acknowledge that that is something that we need to make a bit of a time to notice whilst right now digitally, but also we need to create a bit of space for people to come back to using this monument when things are safe and they can gather people properly. So one thing I had planned on doing was showing you the walk through the landscape to get to this. There's a couple of standing stones on the way. I'm not going to do that because it's quite cold and I'm only wearing a t-shirt. and it's quite a lot warmer out of the wind here in the Barrow. Oh, brilliant! I think the team who are doing work whilst this is going on have put the link to Graham Taylor's video, I think. Latest comment. It's just a long URL on YouTube, so I'm not going to read it out. I'm just scrolling back through the comments to see if I can cover everything. Kathy sent a nice comment here about quartz and its use on the Isle of Man, which I'm going to refer you back to if you can still get that in the comments. And what are we? I don't know. I've probably been doing this for like 10 minutes now. So I will, unless there's sort of more questions start coming in, I'll think about winding it up. I'll create a moment just for questions. Okay, I've got a comment here on gate design, which I did already cover. I will talk a bit about just how access to the Barrow works, because I think that is an interesting development. There is here a very beefy lock, like getting into a bank vault. It's got a satisfying sort of clunk around it. The access up to the Barrow is on a path which runs through the farm. Construction material provided in your shot. A second, I can't actually see what you can see. It's quite hard because the screen for me anyway. But there's a path that goes down. I will take you to the first standing stone. Let's do that. On the way, here are some no-till spring beans, which are very glad of 15 millimetres of rain yesterday. Spring beans doing their thing. So that kind of emphasises how much this is in the middle of our farm. Coming past on the farther side there, as I said at the beginning, some winter wheats, which they were light land and they really appreciated the rain we just had. The monument, the henge thing I was talking about before, the plan is around this area. Well, I can't see what you can see. But you can see the digger from the construction, since they paused. That we will put this henge monument here. I'll say a bit more about that because I'm walking anyway. Sorry, I was just checking the microphone is in. Been while we had a challenge before. Yes. So Todd is going to. We were thinking about how you update the monument building practices of the guys in the Neolithic to make it relevant to the 21st century and a sensible tribute, not something a bit naff and sort of flimsy. Really beautiful oak over there. One of the things about this one is they have all survived because my grandfather and father, with their wives, stopped things like these things, haven't been able to take it down. I've just come through this gateway here. You can see a gate? Yeah. So the Barrow is generally open for anybody who's got the code, people in the community. But there's this gate here with a sign that allows us to close it when we need that extra privacy. It's really gnarly, quite beautiful beech tree here. Parking. This is not that much immediately by the monument because you are supposed to walk. If you can, not everyone can, I want to be clear about that. Now, here is one of the standing stones. This one's quite small by comparison with the others. Looking down the lane, Barry, you should be in your shot, but I can't go on trees are there. There's one down the bottom of that lane there, and then you continue and you'll find the biggest of them we have at the moment, which is 4.5 tons. So there we are. I will just quickly put in shot the safety as it goes up because I'm encouraging you to walk up here. It is a functioning farm, we've got to keep people safe and also we've got to respect the wildlife, so that means dogs under control and keeping to pass because there are a lot of lapwings up here. My neighbour, Peter Aspect is doing some really interesting things around agroforestry. So there's a wind wheel over there, and he must be there. Saw 4,500 lapwings, he said, Christmas Day about 3 years ago. Certainly this year when I was doing drilling, I had to move some of the leave my jumper next to a lapwing. I actually saw her lay the egg. This is an area that's quite wet at the moment, weedy. We do need to just do a little bit of landscaping in there. That will be one of the last things we do as we complete the monument that we're building. I don't really think I should take you to look at the construction phase, because that's probably going to get me into trouble, bluntly, and just revealing too many of the mason's secrets, which they'd be rightly grumpy about. So that IBC actually is there for water, which we need for the construction phase, if you can see that. It's sitting on a really beautiful bit of now not needed for what was originally bought limestone, and that's going to be turned into a bench to go under that oak. We have had this rather sort of B&Q bench here for whilst we're getting started. That's got to go because it's not really the right aesthetic. Anyway, there is the front of the barrow. Here is the pool by the barrow, which is lovely. There is some, I think it's common pond weed, blanket weed, I forget. I did have someone idea for me, but that will all flower white quite soon. Magpie getting up there. At some point we did have an idea that we would carve the date of construction of the barrow up here using binary, but the feeling is that we won't do that anymore because this stone is just very beautiful as it is. It's got a bit of a sort of cowlick on one side, and we resisted the urge to tidy that up and make it square because it's actually beautiful the way it arrived here. Back again, passing this gate, which is very simple but feels very secure. There's a lot, and anybody who's got a niche in here gets the code so they can access this monument whenever they like during reasonable hours. But obviously they need to be all of us responsible for keeping it secure. Alright, okay, some comments on wildlife. Hi Tim. A bit is windy. Okay, I was really hoping that you could hear me without the wind, because I did put a little microphone thing on. It's supposed to deflect that, but it hasn't done that. But I think you have the advantage over me because I can't watch it in real time. So I'm just going to scroll back through the questions and see if I've covered all of those. Try and keep myself out of the shot and also read. It's quite hard. So 14 odd people here, so that's great. Thank you for joining, everybody that did. I think there's probably not any questions that are outstanding, so I might, if that's all right. Whoops, what's happened now? I flipped the camera around. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So my feeling is that we've probably done all of the talking that you need from, or want, probably more than you want from me. But what I will do is just quietly show people around, because I know some people have wanted to come and can't, and just not do any talking. And then I'll probably just switch it off, if that's all right. Okay. So I will just quietly show you the monument.